Hi everyone. I hope you're fine. I'm very happy to see you all. Um, just 2 minutes to wait the others, and we will start the class. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask, are we supposed to have our videos off or on? Just should I just ask? Hello, Patel.
Uh, I just discovered that I I was not audible.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I think that you didn't hear me.
Yeah, I just started hearing you now. What you said before?
Um. Yes. Sorry. I just give the opening speech for the training
Oh,
session, and I just discovered that my mic was mute,
mic was muted.
and I give you and I already give you the floor, so no worries. I
Oh, I
just say
see. Is that possible? You maybe do another brief one.
yes. I just say that I'm very happy to have you all here in this session. And good morning and welcome to everybody to this important session, training session on AI and gender. And it is a big pleasure to have you all here today as we engage in meaningful discussions on integrating gender perspectives into AI development. And through collaboration among researchers, policymakers, and practitioners, the GRAIN network aims to ensure that AI solutions are not only technologically sound but also socially responsible and inclusive. And today's session marks a key milestone in our journey as we reach the final phase of the GRAND project, and this training serves as an opportunity to reflect on our progress, share knowledge, and strengthen our commitment to responsible AI development. And our objective is to equip you with the tools or strategies, yes, needed to integrate gender perspectives into AI initiatives effectively. And we are honored to have Mr. Sixtus with us today, who will be delivering this insightful session. His expertise in AI and gender inclusion will guide us through key concepts, best practices, and practical application to ensure that our AI driven solutions benefit everyone, especially a marginalized group. I encourage you all to actively participate. You can ask questions, you can share your experiences, because this is a collaborative learning space, and your contributions will make this session even more impactful. Once again, thank you all for being here, and a special thanks to Mr. Sixtus for leading these discussions. And let's make the most of this section and continue working together towards a more inclusive and responsible AI ecosystem. And thank you so much. Now, uh, I talked very much. Now I will give you the floor to Mrs. Sixtus, who will start this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patel. Just to make sure that everyone can hear me, can someone confirm, Patel? Can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, thank you so
Thanks so
much.
much.
And yeah, so if you notice, I'm looking at another screen. So I have two screens on my desk. So I have this one, which is where my camera is coming from, and I have this one, which is where my slide will be displaying. So if you see me looking this way, just know that I'm looking at my slides on my screen. Okay. Um, right. So to start this session, some preliminary uh, housekeeping. I was initially told to organize this training for an hour. Let me just look at this one since I've not started. So I was initially asked to organize this training for 1 hour, but then later on, I think Fatal reached out that I can extend to 2 hours. So I've incorporated more things to, make it fit in within the 2 hour session, or somehow I fear that the content might have gone overboard, but I'll see how I can make sure that it's within the 2 hour session. Okay, so I will share my screen now and then let's get into it. I think we've already lost 20 minutes into this. Okay, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, so what I want to try and do, I think there's a break that we're expecting somewhere. So I have just 4 modules I would introduce. So I'm thinking I would do two before the break, and then after the break, I do another two. There's a group work at the end, and hopefully we will have time to explore that group work. Okay, can you also confirm that you can see my slide? Fatal, can you confirm that you can see these slides?
Yes, we see
Okay,
it.
okay, thank you. Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Sixtus Onyekure. I'm a PhD student. Currently, this is my second year. My PhD is in international development, and I'm focusing on gender studies at the University of Portsmouth, UK. I'm also a non-resident staff here at CC, Center for the Study of Economics of Africa. And then I'm also in the board of Center for Advancement of Equality, Gender and Inclusion Studies. It's a research center at the University of Portsmouth. So one thing I want us to do, as to kind of unwind and get into this session, is this projection by UN that we are 300 years away from achieving gender equality. Now, what I want us to do, the participants, if you can see this, if you bring out your phone and then you scan this QR code, and then to take you to a link where you answer a short multiple choice, right? So what I just want you to do there is to think in your own view, AI is improving this projection, or if you think AI is worsening the projection. So if you bring out your phone, you scan this to take you to where you will see where to answer, put in your answers. So I'll leave this for a while, and then I can later on, maybe in the next 2 minutes, I'll go to see, I will open the results for us to see. So Fatal, if someone asks question, we'll be able to see it as well, right? In case anyone has challenge uh, getting to the multiple choice. Okay, just give us a couple of minutes to enter the answers, to scan the code. Okay, in the next 10 seconds, I will remove the slides and go back to where I will see the answers. Oh, someone says they are using Zoom. Sorry about that. Okay, I will head over to the answers to see a couple of questions we would have, a couple of answers we would have seen. Okay, let's go to. Okay, I can already see some answers. Okay. Okay, so far we have 3 responses. And 2 people say improving it, and 1 person say worsening it. Okay, I want to assume people are having challenge with scanning. And if that's the case, I think this already gives an indication of how people are thinking. Okay, so for us not to waste time, we will get back to the discussion now on why people think this is the case. Okay, so more people think AI is improving it, and less people think AI is worsening it. So, Fatal, I was wondering, is there a way to open up a conversation, maybe to just ask one person, 1 or 2 persons, why they think or why they choose the answers they choose? Is there a possibility with this system? Hello, Fatal? I think you're on mute in case you're
Yes.
saying something. Yeah, is it possible to ask 1 or 2 persons why they choose the answers they choose?
Yes.
Is that okay? So
Uh,
yeah.
Maybe Muchat or Olayinka. Are they here? They have to be moved to the panelist section.
Okay, someone raised hands.
Yes, Olayinka.
Yeah. So, okay. Thank you very much indeed. I'm trying to follow. I realized before that there is no opportunity for us to speak, but I just overheard you mentioning my name now. Would you want me to do something?
Oh, yeah. So I've put up a QR code
Yeah, for the
here,
Menti, yes.
and
I clicked on, I scanned it with my barcode, but it didn't take me, it just kept rolling. It didn't take me to where I could eventually respond. So maybe the network or something. So I was
yeah,
unable to
it's
respond. I scanned it with my phone.
okay. That's all right. I think we've seen the responses. More people are in favor that
Yes,
AI
I got
is
your feedback too.
improving. Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you want to say something regarding maybe what answer you wanted to put?
Oh, okay, yes. For me, in fact, when your responses came out that more people said it is improving, I take that as the expectation. It is really improving. We are not where we are not where we were, a decade back. Some people even believe that AI is just, advancing to our own, continents or, countries, the Western African countries or African generally. But then the reality remains that it has advanced so tremendously. And again, to buttress the fact that AI is increasing, look at what China has done with DeepSeek, and that is going to become a very great game changer. If anyone is following, you would realize that look at how much money the developers of ChatGPT and others are claiming to be spending, and look at just the amount of money DeepSeek is developed with, and yet with that the versatility and it can compete with them head to head. So I want to believe it is the advancement of AI that's leading to these things. So it has really come to stay and it's really, really advancing.
Okay.
The best is yet to come.
Okay, thank you. So in your view, you feel that AI is improving gender inequality and not worsening it?
Okay, yes. I have an experience to share on that. When it comes to gender equality, I want to believe there is still much of work that has to be done. AI has to do with training, training of the data sets. When data, it is like a garbage in, garbage out thing. It is the data that are available that for the training set that is going to lead to the output. So I want to submit that the bias still exists. Not even for gender alone, but even for the African continent. You would want to look for some things on farmers. You will see the white people. Then for the women too, much things might not come. In that regard. So I would not want to see it as a bias, but rather we just need to do more work to develop things on our own that we can put more information in the training set so that women could be able to compete favorably, in this light. That's what I think. Currently, okay. I believe there is the bias, but then it can be improved upon.
Okay, and thank you so much. If we had more time, I'm sure you had more things to say. I'm just trying to catch up with the 2 hours I was given, which is now looking so small based on the content I've prepared. Okay, so I think that's an interesting view. Olayinka, I suppose. Yeah, Olayinka, that's an interesting view from how you're seeing this, how you're seeing AI affecting gender equality. That is one of the things we're going to explore today. Actually, by the time we finish this session, this question will become a lot easier maybe for everyone to even answer for themselves and see how things are going. If we had more time, we would have given more opportunity to others. Watch ahead. Right. So the training outcomes for today, as was given, at least at the end of the day, we hope that you have an enhanced understanding of AI and gender concepts, and then you also have a practical guide or actionable steps for integrating gender perspective into the work that you do. So I've divided this training into 4 sessions, right? The first session will be introduction. I'll be talking on gender and AI intersection, and I'll be talking about this through the feminist lens. And then second thing I will go into is biases, right? So I'll talk about societal and cultural bias in AI and gender. I'll talk about data bias, like Olayinka, you were mentioning in your reflection on how training, how AI is all about training data. We'll go into that, and then we'll look into algorithmic bias, AI and gender. And these are the 4 key things I want to achieve today. My hope is that by the time I'm done with the introduction and the module 1, we will meet up with the time that we're supposed to go on short break, right? And then when we come back on break, we'll do module 2 and module 3. Now, I want us to also do another short task, and this short task is when you hear AI and gender, maybe what is the one word that comes to your mind when you hear AI and gender? I think only 3 people were able to scan before. Maybe let's try again if this can work. So what comes to your mind when you hear AI and gender? Or maybe because of time it will take for you to be scanned. I think you can raise your hand and open your mic and just tell us one thing. I'll just give two people chance because of time. Two people, just raise your hand. What comes to your mind when you hear AI and gender? So when you hear these two topics, AI and gender, what immediately comes to your mind? What immediately comes to your head? For those that were able to scan, I think I'll line again. For those, if you're able to scan, I'll go to view the. Okay, so let's
sorry.
have.
Yeah, so I was going to say that you can enable the chat. I think the chat is currently disabled. So possibly.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the chat is disabled. So if you could not submit via Menti, you should be able to drop some things in the
put
chat.
in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fatal, is that
Yes.
something you can help?
Yes.
Okay, so one thing that comes to my mind when I hear the word AI and gender, more for need for more inclusivity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's
Need for more
response.
inclusivity. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to someone else raise hand. Is it Mutia? Mutia?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Actually, Dr. Olayinka just spoke my mind. When you said one word, when you hear AI and gender, I also want to say inclusivity. That is including bridging the gap, bridging the biasness between the gender in the application of AI and also in the acquiring of knowledge of AI. So I also want to say that one word. So thank you.
Oh, great. Do we have any other contributions on this? Okay, Ndeye, are you Fatal? Okay, you're raising your hand, please. Fatal, I think you're on mute in case you're saying something. I'm not sure. I see a hand raised. Okay, there's a network thing. Okay, so yeah, thank you, Olayinka and Motia. Yeah, inclusivity is very, very key when it comes to AI and gender. I think it's still the concept, some of the concepts we'll be exploring today. Now, let's get into it. Oh, so where did my slide go? My slide just closed unexpectedly. 1 second. Back up. Yeah. So I talked about when I was starting the first introductory session of this is taking you through the feminist lens in understanding gender issues. One thing that stands out, or one thing that is paramount in gender studies, is that a group of feminist researchers have provided strong basis or strong channels through which we should be looking into any issues regarding women. So we cannot do anything regarding gender without taking some nuggets, without listening to what feminist scholars are saying. And one thing we all should take note of is feminist researchers. It's not, or let's say, feminist is not evil, right? Feminist is not, when you see on social media today, you see maybe angry women, saying that men are useless men. No, that is not the feminist I'm talking about. I'm talking about feminist scholars through research, what they have come up to give us as ways to ensure that the voices of women, to make sure that women are incorporated into decision-making positions, to make sure that the needs of women are taken into account when we are doing anything that we are doing. And there are three lenses, or let's say three core areas that the feminists have asked us to look into when we are talking about issues of women. And the first thing is reflexivity. Now, reflexivity talks about our own biases that we're bringing into the table. When we want to deal with any issue regarding women, what is our own biases um, through our socialization, through our upbringing, through our training? What do we feel in our mind is right, is the right thing to do? And that's reflexivity. Now, when you recognize that reflexivity, you will know that, okay, you already have a bias towards this. Now, not allowing that your bias to affect the work you are doing in order to serve the needs of women is vital. And that is what feminist scholars are asking us to first do. So I know that there are a lot of men who are also into, or who are part of this grain, right? Of course, I'm a man, I'm also part of grain through CC. So this is vital for us men, for us to ensure that we know that if there are any biases we hold regarding how women should be integrated into the society, it's important for us to know that we should not allow those biases to affect the work we are doing on gender inclusive AI. Now, the second thing we should also look into is intersectionality. So when we are dealing with issues affecting women, we should ensure that we are taking different dimensions of things that can affect women. These are things like maybe the race, the class in society, or even things like maybe the regions that women live or people are from, right? For instance, they're from urban regions, are they from rural regions? So this, the understanding that all of these have a way of affecting the opportunities that women are faced in society is very vital, and that is another lens that feminists want us to look into. And another, the last one is power dynamics. So it's important we ensure that women are given positions of power, or they are integrated into positions of power. And when we are dealing with women, we should not invoke an authoritative or authoritarian or patriarchal values or norms that the society has embedded in men for a long time. We should make sure that we leave that aside and try to, be at the same pedestal with women. So these are the three key areas that feminists ask us to look into when we're dealing with issues of women. I forgot to mention, as I'm talking, if anyone has any question, they can be putting it in the comment section, please. So I'll be looking in the comments as I'm proceeding. Now, also taking into consideration the feminist lens in AI and gender, what I try to do is to kind of show at a glance how the work that Green is doing fits into the feminist idea of what is affecting women in society. And the whole discussion boils around gender-based violence. I know probably some of you might not have thought it through on how the work you are doing at Grain might be linked into this whole picture of gender-based violence. I thought, okay, it would be a good idea to highlight it through feminist lens. So feminists are always looking out for the needs, or or looking out for how to serve the needs, if I put it that way, how to serve the needs of women in the society. And everything that comes up today in the society has a way, or there are ways that thing that is coming up will further exacerbate the issues that women are currently facing. And what are those issues that women are currently facing? They are facing all manner of violence that are limiting their opportunities. So if you look at here, I've traced gender-based violence down to violence against women and girls. Pardon me that I put IDP camps in Nigeria. That's because that's what my PhD research is about. So ignore the IDP camps in Nigeria and focus on the different aspects of violence against women. We have harmful traditional practices. We have socioeconomic violence. We have physical violence, psychological violence, sexual violence and abuse, online safety, and cyber violence. So these are the areas, or these are the things within the society that are affecting women's opportunities. And one that I've highlighted that is very core to the work of GRAIN, I think it's GRAIN, I'm pronouncing it well, the work of GRAIN is socioeconomic violence. So everything you are doing in trying to mainstream gender into AI, trying to ensure that AI technologies are gender responsive. What we are trying to do in that context is to limit socioeconomic violence, and that is why I highlighted that in yellow. So in the next slide, I will be unpacking some of the socioeconomic violence that we will normally encounter through AI technology, right? And one of them is, economic disparities. So if AI systems, deny women because maybe they don't match or they don't fit into the algorithms that are used to design those apps, this is an economic disparity and it's a violence against women. We've seen cases, we've taught that in this training. We see cases where women don't get jobs, because of the biases that are, introduced into the job search and employment, what do they call it, employment industry. We see all of that. This limits their opportunities. And then we also see situations where AI, it kind of amplifies gender roles, right? I'll show us some example where some of these algorithms, when you want to investigate roles like maybe CEOs or thereabout, maybe put it on Google or thereabout, you're going to see that what pops up will be men or thereabout. So in a way, AI, reinforces this already existing gender stereotype, which is also limiting women's economic opportunities. We'll also see through this training cases where facial recognition has failed to properly identify women, and that can be a risk issue in that case. And then we can also explore cases where AI technologies or AI tech giants, you can hardly see any of them that is led by women. So or you have tech industries. If you check their gender balance, men and women, you still see men dominating. So all of these, are leading to socioeconomic violence, which is violence against women, and this is how feminists see, or this is how feminists see the work you're doing and how that aligns with violence against women and girls. So under the socioeconomic violence, we're going to be looking into algorithmic bias. We're going to be looking into data bias. We're going to be looking into societal and cultural bias. And there are several other biases, but I think I just need to highlight this one. They're the most popular ones that we can easily relate with. And through the course of this training, I'll be expanding on each of these biases that exist in AI and gender. Yeah. So, okay, let me check if there are questions so far. Okay, no questions so far. Fatal, have you activated the Q and the chat session just so that we will know if anyone is asking questions? Right. So moving on, we will first start with societal and cultural bias in AI, which is the module 1. And under this societal and cultural bias, we'll look into image recognition tools. We'll look into AI voice assistants, how all of these are, affecting women, whether positively or negatively, and how this is reinforcing gender stereotype, which will lead us to, the comment that that was made earlier by, I can't remember his name again. Yeah, Olayinka, I think. Yeah, that will bring us back to that. Okay, first, let's explore AI voice assistant. We know that generally, artificial intelligence, they get their power from historic data set, right? And these are easily accessible from the internet. Now, if we think about social cultural bias in AI, I'll just ask me, or just get one feedback from one person. The use of this historic data set in training AI, or how is it a problem, or why is it a problem when it comes to societal and cultural bias? Maybe someone can give an insight. Anything you have to say?
Hello, sir.
Okay,
Hello, sir.
Olayinka. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, I can hear you.
I think it's very obvious thing. It is what is available. You are already buttressed the fact that so some of this information are women are disadvantaged end. So whatever the data set will pull from the internet will be based on available data, and those available data set tends towards favoring males than the females.
Yes, thank
So
you. That's
that's the problem.
exactly the problem that exists with how these AI systems are trained, and that is the societal and cultural bias we are talking about that exists in AI that we have today, and we will be looking into that in details. For a definition purpose, you can see societal and cultural bias, reinforces, stereotypes and cultural norms about gender roles. Now, this is a quick one. I think we like call it eye test or something. I know some of us are very good at AI and technology. If we look at these screens, can someone tell us, these are all voice assistants. Let me give out that nugget. But can someone tell us the names of these voice assistants? Can anyone recognize anyone? Even if it's only one you can recognize. You can talk or you put it in chat. I think the chat is working now. Can anyone recognize any of these voice assistants?
Siri.
Okay, and that is number what? If we have number 1 to 4 from left to right, Siri is number what?
Number 1 for left to right.
Yeah. Okay, great. Oh, well done. And that was you. I didn't get the name of the person that says it's Siri. Who gave the answer? What's the name? I think they are muted again. Okay, that's fine. I wanted to know
me, Fatu. It's me.
Oh,
It's
Fato.
me,
Oh,
Fatu.
okay. Yeah, so Fato has identified Siri. Who can identify another one? Anyone? Can anyone identify another one?
Right or
Someone has
left
their
is
mic.
middle, I think.
Could you repeat?
The first from right to left is Google, I think. Google Voice.
Okay, Google Assistant. Yes, that's Google Assistant. And then we have, after Siri, coming from left to right. After Siri, we have Cortana. Do we know Cortana? And we have Alexa. Now, the question I want to ask, we have Siri, Cortana, Alexa, and Google Assistant. If you look at these three AI assistants, can someone tell me one thing they all have in common, apart from the fact that they are voice assistants? Can someone tell me what all four have in common?
They are designed it like a cycle.
Okay, okay. Yeah, it's a good observation, a good use of imagery. Okay, can someone else tell us what anything that you think they all have in common if we think about their design or their purpose or something?
They are all female voice.
Thank you. That's Juliet, right? Yes, that's Juliet.
Yes.
They are all female voices by default anyway, right? They are all female voices by default. Now, how does that relate to our idea of societal and cultural bias? Can someone give us an insight on what they think? What can we say, or how can we see this playing out, or what message does this send when it comes to our idea of societal and cultural bias in AI systems?
I think it is more bringing about the gender bias in that they assume that when it comes to assistant secretary and such kind of things, it should be a woman's role. That is why they put the women voice there. But for neutrality, you should be able to choose which voice you want, actually, so that it doesn't look biased, so that you can choose male, you can choose female, you can choose whatever kind of voice you have. So as it is right
Thank
now,
you.
it's assumed that it's women who should be doing assistant work, not men. Thank you.
Exactly. Now you see how the AI is further reinforcing the societal and cultural biases that already exist. That's why in the beginning I asked the question of if we think AI is worsening gender equality or improving it. So from what we are seeing here, you can see that we are already aligning to the fact that AI might be worsening gender inequality and not improving it. Because what this thing is telling us is that, just like Juliet mentioned, is that women, should be people that, you send message, right? Their role is relegated to serving, services or serving men in a way. So that is a problem, right? And that is one of the things we feel, or I feel, that GRAIN is trying to address in Africa. Now we'll get a little bit into details on how these AI systems are further reinforcing gender stereotypes, right? Now, ideally, if anyone just hears about voice assistants, subconsciously, you would think that that voice should be a woman, a female voice, right? I think that's the preconception. Anyone that wants to do any or get into any app that has voice assistant, the preconception is it should be a female voice, and this is what all these tech giants are also reproducing, which is not a good thing, and which is not helping in the fight for gender equality. Now let's take some examples. By default, I want us to pay attention to female only voice at release, the second one. So you see by default, all of these voice assistants were made female voices, right? In fact, up to, let's say, 3 years later or 4 years later, some of them still have no male option, like Cortana. There's no male voice option for Cortana. There's no male voice option for Alexa. Google Assistants, now incorporated male option, even though by default it still takes you to female option. Siri, now has male option as well, which incorporated 2 years later. So this kind of tells us how AI systems are reinforcing gender stereotype. other issues on how AI is enforcing gender stereotype is, if you notice, the algorithms used to build these systems, they are built to be, let's say, compassionate or responsive to flatten words, right? So if you have Siri in your phone and you flirt with Siri, maybe it's Siri, you're pretty, or Siri, Siri, I like you, or Siri, if you just try to flirt with Siri, you will see that they will respond as if, in a similar way that a woman would respond to you. This is just, it's giving off the idea that yes, these are what women are supposed to be doing. This is the role they're supposed to be playing, that they are doing the right thing. So this is not, this is not a way forward in trying to drive gender inclusive, um, or driving gender equality through AI. Now, these are some of the things I was saying before. So, for instance, you can see some of these statements. Anyway, I took this from the report by UNESCO. Anyway, this is a report by UNESCO. They analyzed large sums of data to come up with this. So, if you notice some popular statement, when you say you are hot, Siri responds as if, in a way, a girl would respond. Alexa, the same thing. Cortana, the same thing. But so I think Google Assistant is the one that drifts a bit off from this. But in the real sense, this is just giving you idea of how AI is relegating women, or how it's reinforcing the gender stereotype. And this is, in line with the feminist idea that, these systems might, be leading to harassment, sexual harassment. So if you remember the last, the few slides I showed you about how AI, how it fits into the into the general framework of gender-based violence. I think now you can begin to, make the connection in your head to see that yes, this is actually linked to gender-based violence, and the feminists are right to, draw that line in that regard. Now, the thing now moving forward, there are some AI assistants. They are not, playing the role of, answering questions, but, occupying positions of value in society, which is like counseling services. Now, the problem with these counseling services is that they also, by default, make it appear that women are the people who are supposed to be at these roles of counseling. This popular company, S2AI, right? They have a website. I've added this website. So if you visit S2AI, uh, I think it's okay, it's now cast.ai. It used to be s2ai.com. If you visit, you will see that there's an AI that provides counseling services, and they've deployed this in refugee settings, right? Where refugees talk to these AI counselors. And some of the names used to refer to this AI are female voices. It used to be Tess, but now I think they've changed it to cast.ai, right? It used to be test. So names they are using for this AI, it makes you feel as if these are the kind of roles that women should be doing. So, and these are the things that, as GRAIN, we are trying to fight against. Other things too, some other examples is Google Photos. There have been cases, where Google Photos labeled, women cooking as, kitchen scenes, right? Because they think, okay, this is an ideal kitchen scene because women are cooking. It has to be what a kitchen should be like. That means a man is not supposed to be in the kitchen. So whereas men in similar environments, the Google image recognition to, classifies it as a business setting. So these are the way AI systems are reinforcing societal and cultural bias. Now, how can we begin to solve this problem? As GRAIN, what are the practical steps or what should we be advocating for. And one of them is what gender neutral voice assistants or digital assistants. Let's make it gender neutral, right? But now, okay, let me just give this example like I put here. I don't know if we know about Stephen Hawking, right? There is this robotic voice Stephen Hawking uses. I don't know if we know if you watch Stephen Hawking voice. So in that voice, you can't actually say whether it's a man or woman. It's gender neutral voice. And then there's also a popular film, Chappie. There's this Chappie movie. I don't know if you know. If you type it on YouTube, you see Chappie. I think it's a short clip or thereabout. Right? So they are gender neutral voices. Now, but the problem is these AI tech giants, they are actually fighting to make voice assistants indistinguishable from a human voice. Right? That's actually, like, I think that is even the current race now. They want it to be indistinguishable. For instance, Apple has announced that the new Siri that will come with, I think they are currently on iOS 18.3. So I think they say iOS 18.4 will have Siri improved, like you will not be able to recognize whether Siri, like you won't even hear any shaking or anything to make you feel that this is AI. So that's also the same for other AI giants. They are trying their best. They are doing everything they can to make their digital assistant or voice assistant indistinguishable from a female voice. So that can tell you that that's already a step in the wrong direction, right? That is a huge step in the wrong direction. Okay, no chats yet. Looking at the chat session. Yeah. So that's already telling us, the work that we have to do as Green to make sure that in Africa, we start correcting this for AI, for businesses that want to go into AI. But now the thing is, the argument that I want to put forward is that we can still make AI voice assistants human, but let us make it gender neutral. There is no problem for Siri's voice, for Alexa's voice, or for Donna's voice, to be a human voice, but let it not be gender centric. And there are companies that are doing it. This is Q. I don't know how many of us know Q. If you know Q, you can just, raise your hand, or you just put it in chat session, or you do a thumbs up if you know Q. So if you visit this genderlessvoice.com, it will take you to their website and see a clip. And if you play the voice of this Q, there is no way he will know whether it's a male voice or a female voice. It is gender neutral. You won't be able to do. So these are steps in the right direction. And this is what we feel that tech giants, they should be emulating, so that they won't keep reinforcing the gender stereotype that are already existing. Now, another example of solutions, right, or making these systems gender responsive is this Kai. I don't know if how many of us know Kai. So Kai is mostly used by banking systems, right? And this chatbot is a very example of a gender neutral, step when it comes to chatbots. It doesn't give you any responses that suggest that it's a male or a female. And although it doesn't have a voice, it's only chat based. So when you even try to make, for instance, if you see earlier, if you tell Siri, you're pretty, or Siri, do you think I'm pretty, or Siri, make sexual comment, you see, Siri kind of romancing your ego or romancing your chat, trying to make you feel good. But Kai, it's not like that. If you bring all those kind of suggestions, Kai will immediately ignore and bring you back to the banking discussions you're talking about. So these are kind of examples of how we should ensure that AI systems are gender neutral. So new AI systems that are built, they should be emulating from these good examples. Now, other things we should do to make sure that we take gender responsive solutions, our gender responsive approach to AI is making sure that women are represented in both advanced digital skills and in both leadership roles in tech skills is very, very important, very, very key. We cannot over emphasize that. Yeah? So because if we keep women at the back, or if we don't incorporate involvement in decision making, you will see that this tech or this AI that are coming up, they will be, they'll be coming up from male view of the world, from male view, right? For instance, we can see that in all this Siri, Alexa, and all of that. That's particularly, will I say, a male perception or a male view of the stereotypes. But if we have women at the table, joining, making these decisions, designing their own systems, they will make sure that the women are not used as a tool or are relegated in such positions. There are good examples. This Equal Skills Coalition is led by UNESCO and the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. They are working tirelessly, to put women in tech, to launch them into tech and give them strong digital skills. And I also feel that that is one of the goals or mission that GRAIN is trying to achieve. Now, to summarize this session, gender responsive solutions. Now, one thing that we can be doing or advocating for is to fund studies that identify, the dimensions of gender biases that exist. Just like, for instance, some of the examples I showed you, there should be studies that are constantly evaluating these systems, reporting the results, flashing it in the faces of everyone, so that we can start, seeing how problematic this can be in gender, in achieving gender equality. So another thing is this gendering of digital assistants that I showed you about. There should be studies that also evaluate how is this influencing behaviors in the society. How is it influencing men? How is it influencing women in the society? There are studies should go into that. So also we should make sure that this voice assistants or digital assistants, there are data should be collected or studies should be done, to compare, how they are used, what purposes they serve, and those kind of nuances is very, very key to making sure that further or new developers in AI take some of this into cognizance. And also we should be advocating for gender balance in AI tech teams. I think I even forgot one thing I wanted to do before we started. I wanted to check the GRAIN team to see the gender balance of the GRAIN team. Yeah, don't think I can do that now because say charity begins at home. So we should make sure that discussions involving women, when it comes to AI and gender, we should have women at the table. We should have them equally representative or represented. Other things that we can also do in as GRAIN, right, as people who are advocating for gender responsiveness, is to advocate for a center, or let's say a data center where you know uh, training data that are gender neutral, right? Training data that are gender neutral, can be stored, and we can have other researchers, contribute to that repository, and then so that further new developers of AI systems can go there and make use of this data and then use it for their work. And this is not debatable. We should end the practice of making digital assistants female by default. Any solutions, any AI solutions that are coming up regarding in which manner AI, the voice assistant or the digital assistant or the chatbot, whatever, we should advocate to end the practice of making this the default or trying to create a brand that this is a female. Then, before the last point, another point I wanted to highlight here is, all the technologies that are being built, all the AI systems, we should make sure that these systems are empowering women and not further, subjugating them and, further reinforcing gender stereotype. And the last one is accountability. Yeah. So we need to hold technology firms accountable to make sure that they are not um what will I say? They are not kind of you know uh, 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 exacerbating the issues that the violence that women face, if we call it what it is, the violence that women face through this technology, through this system. We need to hold them accountable to make sure that they uphold women's dignity and right. Therefore, I think that is the end of module one. Fatal, um, I don't know if I can go into module two, or if you want us to stop to take short Q&A. Are we in line with your plans?
You can just to see what is the most suitable for you. I'm okay with the two propositions. So we can go. Yes, you can see. You can see.
Okay. So let's go into module two. After this module two, we will have the short break. I believe that I think my module two is not as long as module one. Okay, so module two, we'll be looking into data bias in AI and gender. Now, one thing we all know, right, is all of this start from what? Data. Data bias arises when data sets used to train AI systems are either incomplete, unrepresentative, or they further reinforce historic inequalities. Now, for example, although this is outside a little bit outside the content, but it's very relevant to this discussion we're having. Okay. Now, there is a popular statistics, that says that some cars are 71% less safe for women than men, right? And why is this case? This is because of a skewed data set. On the data set used in, coming up with this kind of statistics was not representative. It was hugely male dominated. So these are, gives us an idea of when or how vital data is in when we are building some of these AI systems. There are also other examples here in medicine, which I put in on the display here, which I wouldn't want to go to. Sometimes in medicine, some medications are deemed to be safer, you know, for men, or their men are only taken into consideration, when designing such medications. They don't really put the needs of women into consideration, right? So, for instance, you always see, some medications that they will say, if you're pregnant, don't take this medication, or if you're, I don't know, if you're in your motorcycle, don't take this medication or thereabout. So, but it oughtn't to be so. Some thought can be put into it to make that medication safe, even when women are pregnant, right? So, some this, although this is a bit of out of context of AI, but I just wanted to give an overview. So when this happen, even though we say data don't lie, but when this happen, yeah, the data can be a lie, right? It can be flawed, hugely flawed. So biased data leads to a system that reinforce this stereotype and excludes the voices, right? So, and this, it doesn't happen by accident. This is by design, people making decisions not to go the extra mile to make sure that women's voices or the marginalized group are taken into consideration. Now, under data bias, we'll be talking about four key biases that I want to highlight. We have historic bias, we have labeling bias, we have measurement bias, and we have sampling bias. Right? Historic bias and labeling bias, I will highlight them more when we talk about algorithmic bias, but I'll still say something about them in this data bias. Now, let's look into measurement bias. Now, measurement bias occurs when tools or processes or metrics, used to collect or evaluate data are flawed. And because they are flawed, it's going to lead to inaccurate or skewed data. Some of these flaws we're talking about is not taking into consideration some key elements or some key things that ensures that women circumstances are taken into consideration when measuring this. Now let's take this classic example. This is a real life example. In this Safe Rent is an AI tenant screening tool. So this lady in 2021, Mary Louise, applied for apartment in the US, and even despite generated by the AI tool that is measuring that. And the problem is this report didn't even include why or how this decision was arrived at. So these are the kind of things, the way that or in real life, how these AI tools, due to measurement bias, excluding some key things that matter. But in this case, it's possible that this AI did not take other factors. Maybe it's just looking into hard data or hard facts, maybe like things like income, or thereabout. Forgetting other key matrices, maybe like long-term rental history. So these are some way that if data are queued or if measurement used in the data process is skewed, then it's obviously going to lead to biases through these AI systems. Now, sampling bias, we all know that when research is about to be conducted or research is conducted, sampling is a key issue. Now, the bias comes when the sample you are working with does not adequately represent all groups. And because of this bias, AI systems are going to, make mistakes, if I put it that way. If maybe in your sampling approach, maybe you consider what is convenient to you. I know they have different types of sampling, convenient sampling, and all of that. You consider what is convenient to you. You just go to a particular location, and probably it's male dominated, and then you take your data and you come up and you put up a statistics that you expect people to consume and digest. Now let's look at in AI context some examples that come up as a result of sampling bias. And these are facial recognition that misidentify women and people of color. And this is a study from MIT Lab. And they said that there was up to 34% error for dark-skinned women. Right? And why was there error? Because the system did not have enough data, right, from people of color. So that's what led to that this issue of error in identifying faces of women of color. Now, looking into historic bias, we all know that AI models, they learn from past data, and this past data incorporates, histories of inequalities and discrimination against women. Now, there's this classic example. I don't know if you know the story. In 2016, yeah, where Microsoft's algorithm made this disturbing comment. It was a man, but although it has been discontinued now, where it analyzed chunk of data from Twitter, and from its analysis, it referred to feminism as a cult and cancer, right? Because if you check the majority of people on Twitter and the kind of discussions, it's a male-dominated area, and these are the comments that you will see, and the AI learned from that data, and in the AI's mind, feminism is a cult and it's a cancer. That's what it knows, and this is a very troubling, example of the bias when it comes to the data that we are using to train these AI systems. Now we have labeling and annotation bias. You know that some of these data used in training AI, some of them are human labeled, if I put it that way. So if as human, through our own biases, which is initially I talked about reflexivity in when I was talking about the feminist three core areas they want us to consider, which is reflexivity, and is the idea of knowing our own biases and not allowing our own biases to affect our work when we are dealing with issues of women. Sometimes that does not happen. People allow their own biases to reflect in their work, right? And then what we see that you see situations where those biases reinforce in the way we label data. For instance, we can label um, roles, like maybe cleaning or caregiving or thereabout. We kind of associate that with women, and AI is going to learn that from the data we supply to it, and all of those will lead to algorithmic bias. I will give us more example of this when I'm talking about algorithmic bias. Now, what steps can we take to start mitigating data bias? Now, one way is to ensure that whatever we're doing, we use stratified sampling, right? That's one of the examples anyway. And this stratified sampling is making sure that all groups are represented, right? All groups are represented. You first identify those strata, low income, high income, men, women, rural, urban, all of those. And then when you have all of these different strata, then you will now start, taking, your sample from each of these strata. At the end of the day, you have data that is, representative enough so that you will not run into your AI solution, not run into a situation where you have comments like saying feminism is a thought and it's a cancer. Now, secondly, there's something my mentor, Dr. Deji, usually says, and I took that into consideration. He usually says, not all that counts are countable. Yeah, not all that counts are countable. Now, this is very important because there are things that there are things that let's say disadvantage women in positions. Yeah. So for instance, things like maybe organizations that are, for instance, are not giving maternity leave, if I put it that way, right? So you see that maybe sometimes when women go on maternity leave, they are not able to contribute much. Then if you're training AI on recruitment, is going to see those gaps where women are constantly not at work. And if you want to make a decision for that, it's going to tell you that men work harder, right? Men work harder because it's not taking into consideration that maybe okay, women are going on maternity leave. That's the reason that they are not there, and that is important. You cannot say women going on maternity leave is not important. Should not be taken into consideration, right? So if you're training AI with this data set, and you're trying to find, you're using number of hours worked as your metric, you see how that's already problematic. So sometimes if you notice that the data you have is not representative enough, there is no problem, or there is not a problem to go and collect more data from populations that are not represented. So those are some of the steps that you can take. Now, some of the label we give to data or we assign to roles, we should make sure that they are neutral. For instance, don't see positions like maybe architecture or welding or um, what mining or those kind of thing, and in your mind you try to associate them, or when you're labeling data for what any reason at all, you try to say, okay, this is associated with men, but let's not do that. Just make sure that the labeling we're giving to data is gender neutral as possible. And that is the end of the second module. And I think at this point we can go on this break, and then when we come back, we can complete the module 3, I think, and yeah, I think algorithmic bias is the last one. Yeah. Okay, Fatal, can we take questions or should we go on break? Please, I think I will hand over to you. You are on mute, Fatal, if you're talking. There's a question in the chat. Okay, let's take everything together. Okay, so is that from Fatal? Is this coming from Fatal? It says OY. Oh, okay. Someone is saying they have something else by 1. Okay, so I'll continue, but that is actually problematic a bit because I had thought we would do a group work at the end, but it's fine. Okay, Fatal, I'm still waiting to hear what you are saying or what we should do.
Um, 60s, you can go through the module 3, I think. If you don't have, if the participant don't have questions, yes.
Okay, all right, let's continue then. Okay, now we'll go into, sorry, someone was saying something. Okay, yeah, so let's get into algorithmic bias. Now, what's the way regarded as algorithmic bias is when can we say the bias has occurred in an algorithm? Now, this is when the system, the AI system, produces outputs that disadvantages women, if I put it in that light. So when AI system produces these outputs that is harmful or is puts women in a relegated position or something of that nature, we say there is algorithmic bias. And all of this is not by accident. It's due to our own biases as individuals. Coming from the socio-economic and socio-cultural point of view. And all of this, these biases, we allow it to inform, the data and all of that, and that comes back because the algorithm use this data that we provide. So under algorithmic bias, we'll talk about labeling again. I mentioned that we'll go in details of labeling algorithmic bias. And then there's something I call misplaced objectivity in model architecture. We'll look into what I mean by misplaced objectivity in model architecture, and then we'll look into historic bias. Now, starting with historic bias, we all know that training data that relies on this historic data set due to biases that already exist in this historic data set, inevitably it's going to lead to bias systems, right? I put another example here about the recruitment system that Amazon uses. This is a popular, let's say, call it a scandal or thereabout. So Amazon had, or they came up with an algorithm for recruitment, and then the AI, came up and automatically removing women from the removing women from the pool. And then when investigation were carried out, it was seen that this AI system, the data, it has, had much of, male dominance in this position, and the assumption was men were best suited for those particular positions. So these are examples of, how historical bias, leads to bias in the real world. Another thing we can also see, is if you just put search on Google, you put CEO position or thereabout, you see that outputs that you're going to get is going to be male dominated output, right? I know it might be practical, or realistic to say, there are men in CEO position, but why should we have men's faces coming first when you put CEO positions in, all this Google? The algorithm, it's that's because of the data it has been fed, and this is historic data that is highly skewed, or which has discriminatory properties, right? Now, I said we're going to go into leveling and annotation bias in detail. Yeah. So if you also put hang on. Yeah, okay, I think I used this twice. Yeah, so this also further examples of how the algorithm also process CEOs. So if you also do an image search of CEOs on Google or thereabouts, so due to the level that's the data that has been used to train this AI is still going to put out male-dominated faces such as this. Now, coming back to the objectivity bias, and I call this misplaced objectivity, right? Now, a classic example of this is, we know, anyway, let me say this first. We know that there is nothing wrong in, saying that we should use hard facts in checking efficiency, if I put it that way, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But now, what is wrong with that is that a fair way to assess how how people contribute in certain things? Do we only care about the hard facts? What about the soft things that we do not take into account? So sometimes the mathematics around these algorithms, they only consider some of those numeric or hard evidence put into uh, taken into consideration by people designing this algorithm. I told us before example of how sometimes if you're measuring performance and you're using hours worked as performance, how about women that went on maternity leave or thereabout? So even though it's good to be that objective that, okay, the more we know that the more you are at work, the more output you have to produce. But then, how about bringing human uh, into discussion, right? Bring the human aspect. Women going on maternity leave, for instance, it's important. It's bringing a human aspect into it. So you should not measure performance based on hours worked. Maybe in that case, you can consider other metrics that make sure that when women are out of the office within that time, make sure that that matrix does not take into consideration that time. So that's what I call objectivity bias. Yeah. So there are examples of loan applications. That's in AI. Coming down to my slide went off again. So as my slide is coming out, so the example of loan applications, sometimes when organizations are evaluating loan applicants, they usually check the income, right? They usually check the income. Okay, what is your income level, or what do you do, or what are these, what they call these collaterals or something like that? What are the collaterals you have, right? And sometimes because of that, women already are disadvantaged out of that position because of the existing uh, inequalities that put women down, in terms of giving them access to opportunities, to amass or to create this wealth. So women need opportunities. They need to these loan applications. Their design should not only use matrices that will favor men. So they should look into other matrices that make sure that women are also taken into consideration. So these are a classic example of this. I don't know, credit cards are not that rampant in Africa, but in Europe and the West, credit cards are, are rampant and they are used for loan application. So you see an example here where an investigation was carried into Apple because the credit card scoring system was biased towards women because of the data or the algorithm that has been designed, the hard facts that they have asked the algorithm to look out for, and because of that, women are biased out of those positions. They are automatically disadvantaged. So these are the things we need to be looking into. Now, how can we start mitigating algorithmic bias? Now, diverse development teams. This is very key. The first one. Make sure that people that are involved in building the AI is both equally men and women alike, right? Because if it's only men, all of these issues we're identifying, you see that that's what they're going to be thinking about. They're not going to be considering some things that will help improve women's opportunities. They're not going to be thinking about all of that. Now, also talk about fairness metrics audits. So make sure you conduct audits that to ensure that when you're done with the system or in process of building the system, make sure that you see it. Even if you get one or two people, one or two experts, if you get gender experts like myself and other people to evaluate, what you're doing to make sure that it is gender responsive. Like, is it fair to everyone? So that's fairness audits. Then you have bias detection tools. There are some organizations that have developed some systems or some AI or algorithms that will be able to assess, the level of bias that is in your algorithm. I think there's IBM's AI Fairness 360. Yeah, and there's also Google What If. I think they call it Google's What If too. So utilize these tools to also assess, the bias in your algorithm. Another one is transparency. Remember when I mentioned the lady that the landlord denied access to rent a place? The AI system that automatically screen her out without explanation. It's good to have an explanation of how these things are being decided. That is very key. When Olayinka was speaking earlier, he made mention of DeepSeek, the new DeepSeek AI. You've noticed that they've made everything public. If you just use DeepSeek and you type something, the way that the algorithm is thinking, you will see it. That's not in ChatGPT anyway. I've only seen that in DeepSeek. You see how it's thinking. It will show you its thought process until it starts answering your question, right? So that's important. Then, of course, ethical guidelines is to make sure that you are upholding ethics when you are working with your AI. You can involve AI ethics experts to make sure that things like proper attribution, it's incorporated in your data. Things like sexualizing women, just like we saw with Cortana, Siri, and Dola. We make sure that this is not the case, right? And then we have the final one, data augmentation, which is about making sure that you're integrating diverse data sets in your AI solutions to make sure that no group is automatically disadvantaged. Now, that is the end of the presentations. I had the group work, but I will leave that to um, Fatal. If you think we need to do this group work, there are two group tasks, this one and this one. So depending on what you think is obtainable at the time. So on that note, I say thank you, everyone. It was a lovely conversation with you all. I think I will hand over to Fatal now to decide what's next.
Hi, Sixtus. Am I audible? Sixtus, am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, Fatal.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. I'm very happy and impressed by this session. So we can we can move through the questions. Muchat, Olayinka, Juliet, everyone, if you have any questions, please you can ask it to Mr. Sistis before we end this session. Thanks so much.
Okay, you can ask your question or you can type it in the comments. Yeah, I suppose it will just be the discussion and there won't be the group task. Fatal, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Sixtus, that's correct.
There's no time for the group work. So let us discuss. Let me know your thoughts. If you want to ask something that will involve me going to the slide, let me know. I will, bring back the slides and we'll clarify.
Okay, great.
Okay. Olayinka is raising hand. Please go ahead.
So mine is going to be much of a thought-provoking question. We have identified the problem. We know that the problem is emanating from lack of enough data that have women representation. So what exactly are we doing to address them? But because I think we just keep on, identifying the problem. Women are being misrepresented. Women are, being shortchanged. But what are we really doing to build that database, that we will be able to hope that, let's say in the next 1 decade, in the next 2 decades, we would have been able to get that gender, balanced or gender neutral system that we are really dreaming about. Because most seminars or workshops like this would do exactly what our honorable speaker had done, but then it still look like identifying the problem on and on and on. Are we making effort to start to get database? I was really impressed when you were talking about the algorithmic bias, talking about income, talking about hours. But then what are we doing differently so that in the next 1 decade, we would be able to run such model and then the women would not be biased, so that we'll not just keep talking and talking, on and on. So this is just a thought from me.
Okay, thank you so much. I will just bring out the slide where I was dealing with solutions. I think your question relates to the data bias solutions. Yeah. So you mentioned things around what are we doing, right? I think the first thing I mentioned is when you are going to collect data that you want to use to train AI systems, right? Make sure that this data, they are representative of all categories and all dimensions, right? I mentioned maybe you can use stratified sampling, maybe, so that you can get your data from different strata, from different socioeconomic backgrounds. Make sure that people are all represented, women, men, and all of that alike, right? And then I also mentioned that sometimes not all the accounts are accountable, which is I think I made a reference to sometimes if you're building a system or AI system that assesses anything in the workplace, it's important that that system does not take into consideration time, for instance, that women are on maternity leave, for instance, right? Because if you leave that gap and you incorporate that, it will show that women are not working hard enough because you've used a wrong metric, right? And I also mentioned that if there are a category of groups that are not represented, there is no harm in making sure that you go out of your way to make sure that you get that data, right? And then under when I was talking about historic bias, I think I mentioned something like involving women on the table, getting women. Let's check if that is here. Yeah, women need a seat at the table in advanced digital skills, right? So give a women a seat at the table, make sure that the teams, right, that are building this AI, women are there, right? Also make sure that you are training women to be very to have those skills that are needed to build the system so that they can be building the systems, right? So further solutions I provided to fund studies that identify, the types of biases that exist, and studies that will be bringing some of these things to light, right? So yeah, I think maybe if you just take screenshots of, or you snap this with your phone, it's kind of addresses some of the questions. But let me know if there is something in particular I was not able to answer. Okay, Juliet, raise hand.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Cyprian, for the insightful presentation and the discussions. Mine is not really a question, but it will be an extension from what Olayinka raised, because we have identified problems here and some solutions that we can have. But I think we also need to look at it in terms of governance as well. AI governance, for example. Do we need to bring in some sort of regulations into this? Do we need to come up with AI governance frameworks, ethics frameworks, and all that, so that at least it can be concrete, so that somebody, when they're doing something, they know what is supposed to be the right thing to be done, and what are the consequences of not following those kind of regulations. So I think as an extension of this, we need to have frameworks that can be able to guide, because currently there is nothing to guide actually in AI implementation. Most countries do not have any of those regulations. So that is why some of these biases are in place, because there's nothing to guide. So I think as an extension, maybe we can also consider bringing in governance and regulation into it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Juliet. That is very, very accurate. So from a government and policy perspective, yes, that is very, very highly relevant, right? I didn't miss, or I didn't forget to put it, but because the training, I had the idea that it's just within GRAIN and what it is that GRAIN can do. So I just thought, okay, if we're not going to have government people or policy people, maybe I can just leave that out. But you are highly, very, very correct. We need those guidelines or regulations that will guide people from government perspective. So what I wanted to also add is, if you check this last line, that this one relates to governance within a firm itself. For instance, GRAIN, right? For instance. So we need to ensure that there are clear lines of accountability, and all of this will be part and parcel of governance framework that make sure that AI workplaces products are free from gender bias and harmful gender messages and expectations. Thank you. Thank you, Juliet, for that insightful contribution. Yeah. There are chats. Oh, look, there's a chat. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. Yes, my worry is on the established documentation of women acceptance of male favor stereotypes. Okay, especially by rural women in African countries. Yes, yes. Who is this? Okay, host, the panelist. It says KO. Yeah. So I don't know if you can all see the chat. Someone made a wonderful contribution that their concern is women who are accepting these norms, and you are actually correct. There is a study, there's a survey. I can't remember the link, but if you type on Google, you will see it. There's a survey that says, although it's outside this context, that says that I think about, is it 80% of women, I don't know if that's in Tanzania or Nigeria, that they accept that their husbands beating them is a good thing, right? They are happy with husbands beating them. So we know that there are situations, there are people who are not sensitized, right? So I think it's all about sensitization. For instance, the work that Grain is doing, this is revolutionary. So these are the things that we go to sensitize these people for them to actually understand, that these things are not actually normal. They are not okay. So people need to tell them that this is not okay. So I don't know who put that in the chat, but that's my response. Any other contributions or questions? Any other contributions or questions?
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Okay, can I say something?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. First, thank you very much. It was a good presentation. I got a lot of things from your presentation. I want to add something related to the question a previous friend raises, the solution, how to solve the gender bias. So I have experience in this regard, especially for low resource languages, African language. When you go to machine translation, there are a lot of problems in this regard. So, for the existing system, like Google Translation and other large models, the only way to solve this problem is fine-tuning. So we, for example, in our case, we propose a solution. We develop a simple tool, and first we balance the data set. For example, in one data set, if we have 10 sentences that talk about doctor, and that doctor it's talk about the doctor as a male, so it should have similar number with doctor
Yes.
and in woman stereotype
Yes.
in women. So
Yes.
such a solution is it's one of the solutions that mitigate the current problem. Just to add this, thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you. That is perfect, right? I think that hits on what we're talking about, when we talk about uh, gender roles, how AI subconsciously or how the system reinforce gender roles. So yeah, thank you for that contribution, Wally.
Yes. Any questions or feedbacks from participants? I think that this is mostly the end of this session. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time.
Patu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Olayinka.
Yes, there are two comments there. I appreciated the presenter. It's a really very rich one with a lot of data, research based. Then I secondly also requested, can we get a slide?
You can ask directly this question to Mr. Sixtus if he can hear us. Yeah.
Okay, please go ahead and ask, please.
Can we get the slide of the presentation?
Oh, okay. Is that the question? Okay. I will work with CC to see, how that can work out. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been a very wonderful presentation.
Thank you so much, Elaine.
Yes, another question. It's midday, so I would like to extend my my thanks to Mr. Sixtus for his great presentation and insightful this insightful session, because I am an AI expert and I didn't know. I learned a lot of things through this session. So I think that it was very insightful for everyone. So we would like to express our sincere thankful for your time and for the motivation and the engagement from each participant. Thank you so much for everybody to have joined us. And I think that this is just the beginning, and we will have other sessions related to these thematics. And so, Mr. Sixtus, if you have to if you have something to say to our participants, you can go ahead. I will give you the floor to say them your last words. And thank you so much again for this impactful and insightful session. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Fatal. And I think what I would just say is to appreciate the participants for contributions, for making it interactive. It's a shame that we couldn't get into the group work, because I had some interesting, thought-provoking group work sessions we would have done to consolidate all of these ideas. But I'm hoping that we will keep these training sessions, running now and then we can have time to express ourselves and then talk at much length. So I think that will be all from me for now. And thank you, everyone, and I hope I'll see you soon.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.